The night was cold and dark when Sunho heard the sound. It came from the mountains behind his small house. A loud crash that shook the ground and made his old bones tremble. He was 74 years old and lived alone in a quiet village far from the busy cities. His wife had died 8 years ago, and now it was just him, his small garden, and the memories of better days. Sunho stood at his window and looked at the mountains. A strange orange light glowed between the trees. Fire, maybe. Or something else. Something that did not belong in these peaceful hills. He should call someone. That was the smart thing to do. But Sunho had lived a long life, and he had learned that sometimes the smart thing and the right thing were not the same. He put on his old coat, took his lantern, and walked into the cold night. The path up the mountain was hard for his tired legs. Branches scratched his face. The air smelled like smoke and something else. Something sharp and strange, like burned metal. As he climbed higher, the orange light grew brighter. Then he saw it. A machine had crashed into the mountainside. It was small, no bigger than a fishing boat, but it was like nothing Sunho had ever seen. The metal was black and twisted. Smoke rose from cracks in its body. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing faintly in the darkness. Sunho knew what this was. Everyone knew. 20 years ago, humans had met beings from other worlds. The galaxy was full of life, full of creatures that traveled between stars like people traveled between towns. Ships like this one passed through Earth's sky sometimes, though never this close to his village. He should go back. He should tell someone. This was not his business, but then he heard it. A small sound. Weak and broken. The sound of someone crying. Sunho moved closer to the crashed ship. The door was torn open, hanging from one side. Inside, everything was dark and destroyed. And there, in the corner, he saw her. She was young. That was the first thing he noticed. Young and thin and hurt. Her skin was pale silver, like moonlight on water. Her eyes were large and violet, filled with fear and pain. She wore torn clothes that hung loose on her skinny body. Her ribs showed through the thin fabric. Burn marks covered her wrists, red and angry. Like she had been tied with something hot. She saw him and tried to move away, but she was too weak. She pressed herself against the wall of the broken ship and made a sound like a wounded animal. She expected him to hurt her. He could see it in her eyes. She expected pain because pain was all she knew. Sunho's heart broke in that moment. He had seen hunger before. He had seen fear. During the hard years of his youth, he had known both. He remembered what it felt like to have nothing, to wonder if tomorrow would come. And he remembered the strangers who had helped him when no one else would. He did not think about loss. He did not think about danger. He only thought about the frightened child in front of him. Slowly, carefully, he took off his coat. He held it out to her, not moving closer, just offering. She stared at him with those big violet eyes, waiting for the trick, waiting for the trap. There was no trap. Sunho laid the coat on the ground near her feet. Then he stepped back and sat down on a broken piece of metal. He did not speak. He did not move toward her. He just waited. Minutes passed. The cold wind blew through the destroyed ship. Sunho's old body ached, but he did not move. He had learned patience from his years of farming. Some things could not be rushed. Finally, the girl reached out. Her thin fingers touched the coat like it might bite her. When nothing happened, she pulled it toward herself and wrapped it around her shaking body. Sunho smiled softly. He pointed at himself. "Sunho," he said. Then he pointed at her and raised his eyebrows in a question. She did not answer. Maybe she did not understand. Maybe she was too scared. It did not matter. Sunho stood up slowly. He held out his hand to her. "Come," he said gently. "Home, warm, food." She stared at his hand for a long time. In her world, a hand meant chains. A hand meant pain. But something in this old man's eyes was different. Something she had never seen before. She did not take his hand. She was not ready for that. But she stood up on shaking legs and took one small step toward him. That was enough. Sun-Ho walked slowly down the mountain, and the strange silver girl followed him. She stayed far behind, ready to run at any moment. But she followed, and when they reached his small house, she stood at the door, afraid to enter. Sun-Ho went inside. He lit a fire. He put water on to boil. He moved slowly and calmly, never looking directly at her, never making sudden movements. He prepared a simple porridge, the same kind his mother used to make when he was sick as a child. When it was ready, he filled a bowl. He placed it on the floor near the door where she stood watching. Then he went to sit by the fire, far away from her. "It is hot," he said softly. "Be careful." She did not move. She stood there for almost an hour, watching him, waiting for something bad to happen. It never did. Finally, hunger won over fear. She crept forward, grabbed the bowl, and retreated to the corner. She ate like someone who had not eaten in weeks. Maybe she had not. Sun-Ho did not watch her. He just sat by the fire and stared at the flames. He thought about his wife. He thought about the daughter he had lost long ago. He thought about all the empty years in this quiet house. Maybe it did not have to be empty anymore. Outside, snow began to fall. The crashed ship on the mountain disappeared under a blanket of white. And in a small house at the edge of a village, an old man and a starving girl sat in silence, separated by fear and language and the vast distance between stars. But they were not alone, and sometimes that is where everything begins. The girl did not speak for 7 days. She stayed in the corner of the small room that Sun-Ho gave her. It had been his wife's sewing room once, full of fabric and thread, and the sound of her gentle humming. Now it was empty except for a bed, a small table, and the frightened alien girl who would not come out. Sun-Ho did not push her. Every morning, he made breakfast and left a bowl outside her door. Every evening, he made dinner and did the same. The bowls always came back empty, but she never came out while he could see. He went about his life as usual. He woke early and tended his garden, even though winter was coming and there was little to do. He fed the stray cats that visited his porch. He swept the floors and fixed the small things that broke. And every morning, he walked to the shrine he had built for his wife and placed fresh flowers there. She watched him. He knew she did. He could feel her eyes on him through the window. She was trying to understand him, trying to find the danger, trying to learn the rules of this strange place. Among her people, there were always rules. The strong took from the weak. Kindness was a trick. Food was never free. If someone gave you something, they wanted something back. That was how the universe worked. That was the only truth she knew, that this old man did not follow those rules. On the 8th day, she came out of the room. Sun-Ho was sitting at his small table, drinking tea and looking at the snow outside. He heard her footsteps but did not turn around. He did not want to scare her. She stood in the doorway, thin and pale, wearing the old clothes he had left for her. They were his wife's clothes, simple and warm. They were too big for her skinny body, but they were clean. Sun-Ho gestured to the empty chair across from him. He did not say anything. He just pointed and waited. She did not sit. But she did not run either. She stood there and watched him drink his tea. After a long time, she pointed at his cup and made a questioning sound. He smiled and poured her a cup. He placed it on the table near her and went back to looking out the window. She took the cup. She sniffed it carefully. Then she drank. That was the beginning. Over the following days, she started to come out more. She followed him at a distance, watching everything he did. She watched him cook. She watched him clean. She watched him care for the garden and feed the cats and place flowers at his wife's shrine. She did not understand any of it. One morning, she followed him outside while he worked in the garden. The ground was cold and hard, but Sunho was preparing it for spring. He moved slowly, his old back hurting, but he did not stop. She watched him put covers over the sleeping plants to keep them warm. She watched him add special dirt to help them grow. She watched him work for hours on something that would not give food for many months. Finally, she made a sound. He looked at her. She pointed at the garden, then at him, then made a gesture he did not understand. But her face asked the question clearly. Why? Sunho thought about how to answer. She did not speak his language, and he did not speak hers. But some things did not need words. He knelt down and touched the soil. Life, he said simply. He pointed at a small plant that was still green. Sleeping now. But spring comes. Then, he spread his hands wide and smiled. Big, strong, beautiful. She stared at the tiny plant. On her world, weak things were destroyed. They had no value. No one would waste time protecting something so small. But here was this old man, giving his time and energy to help a tiny plant survive the winter. She did not understand. But she wanted to. The next day, she tried to help. She watched what he did and copied his movements. Her hands were clumsy. She had never touched dirt before. She had never grown anything. On the ships where she had lived, there was only metal and pain and darkness. She made mistakes. She damaged some of the covers. She put dirt in the wrong places. She looked up at Sunho with fear in her eyes, waiting for punishment. He laughed. It was a warm sound, soft and kind. He shook his head and showed her the right way to do it. He was patient. He explained with gestures and simple words. He never raised his voice. He never showed anger. When they finished, he patted her shoulder gently. Good, he said. Good work. Something strange happened inside her chest. A feeling she did not recognize. Later, she would learn that humans called it pride. That night, she sat at the table with him for dinner. She still did not talk, but she was there. He made a simple soup with vegetables from his stored harvest. They ate in silence. When they finished, she pointed at the shrine in the corner, at the picture of the smiling woman, at the flowers Sunho placed there every day. Sunho looked at the picture for a long moment. His eyes were sad but soft. My wife, he said. Yunji. Gone now. 8 years. He touched his heart. But here, always here. She did not understand all the words, but she understood the feeling. Loss, loneliness, love that did not end even when someone was gone. She pointed at the flowers, then at him, then made the same questioning gesture as before. Why? Sunho smiled. Because I remember. Because she liked flowers. Because... He paused, searching for simple words. Love is not just for living people. Love continues, always. She sat very still. Among her people, the dead were forgotten. They had no value. Remembering them was a waste of energy. But this man spent time, every day honoring someone who could never give him anything back. She thought about this for a long time that night. She lay in the small bed in the sewing room and looked at the ceiling. Everything she knew about the universe was breaking apart. Everything she had been taught was wrong. Maybe kindness was not a trick. Maybe small things mattered. Maybe she mattered. The next morning, she woke early. She went outside before Sunho was awake. She found a small flower growing wild near the edge of the garden. It was tiny and not very pretty, but it had survived the cold. She picked it carefully. When Sunho went to the shrine that morning, he found her already there. She was standing in front of his wife's picture, holding the small wild flower in her shaking hands. She did not know the right words. She did not know if she was doing it correctly, but she placed a flower next to his and stepped back. Sunho felt tears in his old eyes. He did not say anything. He just stood beside her, and together they looked at the picture of the woman who had been kind, who had taught him that love was the most powerful thing in the universe. And now, perhaps he was teaching someone else. The village had eyes, and those eyes were watching Dot. It was a small place. Only 50 families living in the shadow of the mountains. Everyone knew everyone. Secrets did not stay secret for long. And the strange silver girl living in old Sunho's house was the biggest secret anyone had seen in years. The whispers started small. A farmer saw her through the window. A woman noticed Sunho buying extra food at the market. A child said he saw someone with strange skin standing in the garden at night. Soon, everyone was talking. Some people were curious. Some were scared. And some were angry. "It is against the law," said old Bora, who had lived in the village longer than anyone. "We must report unregistered aliens. That is the rule." "But Sunho has lived here all his life," said another villager. "He has never made trouble." "The law is the law," Bora said firmly. "What if more of them come? What if they are dangerous?" The debates continued in the market, in homes, over fences between neighbors. No one went to Sunho's house directly. They were too polite for that. But the air in the village changed. It became heavier, more suspicious. Then Yuna came. She was 10 years old, with bright eyes and messy hair that her mother could never keep neat. She was curious about everything. She asked too many questions. She never sat still. And when she heard about the alien girl living in Sunho's house, she had to see for herself. She snuck away from her mother one afternoon and walked to Sunho's garden. She peeked through the fence and saw her. The silver girl with violet eyes, sitting alone on the porch, looking at the sky. Yuna did not feel afraid. She felt excited. "Hello," she called out, waving her small hand. The girl jumped. She looked at Yuna with wide, scared eyes, ready to run. But Yuna just smiled. "I am Yuna. What is your name?" The girl did not answer. She did not know how Yuna did not mind. She climbed over the fence, which her mother would have yelled at her for, and walked right up to the porch. She sat down on the steps, leaving space between them. "I think your skin is pretty," Yuna said. "Like the moon." "Do you come from the moon?" The girl stared at her. No one had ever called her pretty before. No one had ever looked at her with such open, innocent friendliness. Sunho came out of the house. He was surprised to see the village girl, but he did not chase her away. Instead, he smiled and brought out some cookies his neighbor had given him. "Yuna," he said, recognizing her. "Does your mother know you are here?" Yuna looked at her feet. "Maybe not." Sunho laughed. "You should go home before she worries. But you can come back tomorrow, if you want." Yuna's face lit up. "Really? Can I bring her presents?" Sunho looked at the silver girl, who was watching this strange small human with complete confusion. "I think she would like that." And so Yuna became a regular visitor. She came every day after her lessons. She brought small gifts, things that seemed silly but meant the world. A ribbon for the girl's hair. A picture she drew of the mountains. Snacks that her mother made. The silver girl did not know what to do with these things. She had never received gifts before. Among her people, you only got things if you earned them through work or suffering. But this child gave freely, expecting nothing in return. One day, Yuna brought a simple game. Stones that you threw and caught in different patterns. She tried to teach the silver girl how to play. The girl was bad at it. Her hands were not quick enough. The stones fell everywhere. But Yuna just laughed and showed her again. And again. And again. By the end of the afternoon, the silver girl was laughing too. It was a small sound, rusty from lack of use, but it was real. Sunho heard it from inside the house. He had to sit down because his eyes were suddenly full of tears. Meanwhile, trouble was coming. Minho arrived on a cold gray morning. He was Sunho's son, 42 years old, with tired eyes and a stiff way of moving. He worked in the city as a security officer. He dealt with laws and rules and problems. He had not visited his father in 2 years. Their last meeting had been bad. They had argued about old wounds, about Minho not visiting enough, about Sunho living alone in this old house, about things that happened long ago that neither of them could change. But now Minho was here, and his face was serious. "Father," he said when Sunho opened the door, "we need to talk." Sunho let him in. The silver girl was in her room. Yuna had gone home. The house was quiet. "I heard the rumors," Minho said. "An unregistered alien living in your house." "Father, do you know how much trouble this could cause?" Sunho poured tea for his son. His hands were steady even though his heart hurt. She was dying. She was alone. What was I supposed to do? Report it. Call the authorities. That is what a normal person would do. Minho's voice was rising. You could go to prison. You could lose this house. Everything. She is a child, Minho. She is an alien. We do not know anything about her. We do not know why she came here or what she wants. Sunho looked at his son. Really looked at him. He saw the fear behind the anger, the worry behind the harsh words. Minho was scared for his father. That was the truth under everything else. Come, Sunho said quietly. Meet her. Then decide. He led Minho to the small room. He knocked gently and opened the door. The silver girl was sitting on the bed, holding the ribbon Yuna had given her. She looked up when they entered. She saw Minho's uniform, his stern face, his cold eyes. She knew that look. She had seen it on the slavers who had owned her. She pressed herself against the wall, trembling. Minho saw her fear. Real fear. The kind that came from terrible experiences. The kind that you could not fake. He saw the burn marks on her wrists, still healing. He saw how thin she was, even after weeks of eating. He saw a child. A broken, frightened child. Some of the hardness left his face. That night, Minho stayed for dinner. He watched the silver girl eat, still nervous, still watching him carefully. He watched his father serve her food first, gently, kindly. He watched how she looked at Sunho, not with fear, but with something close to trust. After dinner, they sat outside. Father and son, alone. You cannot save everyone, Father, Minho said quietly. I do not want to save everyone, Sunho replied. I just want to save her. Minho was silent for a long time. He thought about his mother, who had been kind to everyone. He thought about his little sister, who had died young and never had the chance to grow up. He thought about all the times his father had put others before himself. If anyone asks, Minho finally said, I did not see anything. I was never here. It was not much, but it was something. He left the next morning without saying goodbye to the silver girl. But he left a small package on the table. Inside was a warm hat, size for someone with a small head and large eyes. The silver girl wore it every day after that. The ships came on a winter morning when the sky was gray and heavy with snow. Viola saw them first. She had learned that name now. Somehow it asked her to choose a human name, something easier to say. She picked Vela because it sounded like the word for star in his language. She liked that. Being named after something bright, instead of a number. She was helping Sunho in the garden when she looked up and saw the dark shapes moving through the clouds. Her blood turned to ice. Her hands started shaking. She knew those ships. She knew what they meant. They had found her. Sunho saw her face go pale. He saw her terror. He put down his tools and took her hand. Inside, he said firmly. Now, they went into the house. Viola was crying, something she had not done since arriving. The tears ran down her silver cheeks, and she could not stop them. They will take me back, she said. Her language had improved so much. She could speak now, simple sentences, enough to say what mattered. They will hurt me. They will kill me. No, Sunho said. He held her face in his old, wrinkled hands. No one is taking you anywhere. But even as he said it, he knew the truth. He was just one old man. What could he do against ships from the stars? The soldiers came that afternoon. Human soldiers from the government, wearing gray uniforms and carrying weapons. Behind them came others. Tall beings with dark armor and cold eyes. The Keth, Vila's people. Her former masters. The village watched from behind closed doors. Parents held their children close. Old Bora whispered that she had been right all along. Trouble had come. An officer knocked on Sunho's door. He was young, maybe 30, with a face that looked like he did not enjoy his job. We need to speak with you, the officer said. About the alien you are hiding. Sunho stood in his doorway. He did not move. She is not hidden. She lives here. She is unregistered. She is a fugitive from Keth space. The Keth government has demanded her return. The officer looked uncomfortable. Sir, I do not want to make this difficult. Just let us take her. It will be easier for everyone. Easier for who? Sunho asked. Not for her. Sir, I said no. The officer took a step back. He had not expected resistance. This was supposed to be simple. Just an old farmer in a small village. How hard can it be? Then the Keth commander came forward. Her name was Rin, and she was tall and terrible. Her armor was black. Her eyes were like dead stars. She had conquered planets. She had broken rebellions. She had never failed to retrieve what belonged to the Empire. Move aside, human, she said. Her voice was like metal scraping metal. The slave is our property. She stole from us when she escaped. She must answer for her crimes. Sunho looked up at her. He was small and old and had no weapons. But he did not look away. She is not property, he said. She is a child. My child now. And you cannot have her. Rin's eyes narrowed. You claim ownership of a Keth slave? You do not have that right. I do not claim ownership. I claim family. Sunho's voice was steady. In my home, in my culture, we do not own people. We love them. And I love her. Rin did not understand. The word love had no meaning in her language. The Keth did not feel such things. They felt power. They felt control. They felt satisfaction when enemies were crushed. But love? That was weakness. That was foolishness. That was nothing. Take him, she ordered the soldiers. Take the slave. We are finished here. The soldiers moved forward. Sunho did not run. He stood in his doorway, one old man against the universe. Then Yuna came. She ran from her house, breaking free from her mother's grip. She ran across the snow and stood next to Sunho, small and fierce. Leave him alone. She shouted at the soldiers. He is good. She is good. Leave them alone. Her mother came running after her, terrified. But when she reached Sunho's house, she did not grab Yuna and run. She looked at the old man. She looked at the soldiers. She looked at the frightening alien commander, and she stayed. Then another villager came. The baker, a quiet man who had never spoken to Sunho much. He just walked across the snow and stood beside them. Then another. And another. Old Bora came last. She walked slowly, her old bones hurting in the cold. She had complained the loudest about the alien. She had said they should report it from the beginning. But when she reached Sunho's house, She turned and faced the soldiers. "This is our village," she said. "We take care of our own." Rin watched all of this with confusion. These humans had no weapons. They had no power. They were nothing compared to the Keth Empire. Why did they resist? What did they hope to gain? "You are being foolish," she said. "We will take what we want. Your numbers change nothing." Sunho stepped forward. His voice was quiet but clear. "You are right," he said. "We cannot stop you. You have ships and soldiers and power. We have nothing. But we will stand here anyway, because that is what we do. When someone needs help, we help. When someone needs protecting, we protect. Not because we will win, because it is right." He looked at her with eyes that held no fear. "You can take her. You have the power. But you will have to take her from a father who loves her, from a child who calls her friend, from a village that has decided she belongs here. You will have to look at all of us and know what you are doing." Rin was silent. She had destroyed armies. She had burned cities. She had never hesitated, never doubted, never questioned. But something about this old man made her stop. Not his words. Words meant nothing. But his eyes, his terrible, gentle, stubborn eyes. He truly believed what he was saying. He truly loved this worthless slave. He truly would stand here until they killed him. Why? She did not understand. But for the first time in her long life of conquest, she felt something strange. Something uncomfortable. Something she could not name. Behind Sunho, the door opened. Viola stepped out. She was shaking. Tears still wet on her face. But she was standing. "I will go with you," she said to Rin. Her voice broke. "Do not hurt them, please. I will go." "No," Sunho said, reaching for her. Viola looked at him. At this old man who had saved her, fed her, taught her that she mattered. She tried to smile, but it did not work very well. "You taught me about love," she said. "This is love. Protecting you, even if it hurts me." Rin watched this exchange. She saw the girl willing to sacrifice herself for these humans. She saw the old man willing to die for the girl. She saw the whole village standing in the cold for people who were not even their blood. None of it made sense. None of it should matter. But somehow, it did. Rin raised her hand. The soldiers stopped. "We will return to our ships," she said quietly. "We will consider our options." She turned and walked away. The soldiers followed, confused. The Keth had never retreated. Never died. There had always been a first time. Sunho caught Viola as her legs gave out. He held her in the snow while she cried. The village stood around them, quiet, not sure what had happened or what would happen next. But for now, they were together. And that was enough. Spring came to the mountains like a gentle promise kept. The snow melted. The streams began to sing again. Sunho's garden woke up, green and alive, just like he said it would. Viola spent hours watching the small plants she had helped protect during winter. They grew tall and strong. She had had help make something live. That feeling never got old. A year had passed since the ships came. A year since Rin walked away. A year since Vela learned that humans would stand in the cold for someone they barely knew. The official story was simple. The Keth reported that the escaped slave had died in her crash landing. The body was destroyed. There was nothing to recover. The case was closed. Viola knew the truth. Rin had lied for her. The powerful commander who had conquered worlds had looked at an old man and a frightened girl, and something inside her had changed. Vela did not understand it. Maybe Rin did not understand it either, but she was grateful. Every day, she was grateful. Life in the village had changed. The fear was gone, mostly. People waved at Vela when she walked through town. The baker gave her free bread sometimes. Children asked her questions about space and stars and whether she had ever seen a black hole. She had not. But she enjoyed their questions. Yuna was still her best friend. They were different ages in a way that humans found hard to understand. But that did not matter. Yuna taught her how to be silly, how to laugh, how to play games that had no purpose except fun. These were skills Vela had never learned. She was still learning them. Old Bora had become surprisingly friendly. She brought vegetables from her garden and asked Vela about kef cooking. Vela did not know much about cooking. She had been a slave. Slaves did not cook. But Bora did not mind. She taught Vela human cooking instead. The small room that had been Sunho's wife's sewing room was now fully Vela's room. She had decorated it with things Yuna gave her. Pictures, ribbons, stones from the river that were pretty when they were wet. Small things. Worthless things. The most valuable thing she had ever owned. Minho came to visit every month now. Sometimes every 2 weeks. He still did not talk much, and his relationship with Sunho was still healing. Old wounds closed slowly. But they were closing. He brought Vala books to help her learn to read. He brought news from the city. He brought the kind of food that Sunho's simple kitchen could not make. And sometimes he just sat with them and said nothing at all. That was okay. Silence between family did not have to be empty. It could be full, warm, comfortable. One evening, Minho found his father sitting on the porch, watching the sunset. Vela and Yuna were playing some kind of chasing game in the garden, laughing and shouting. She seems happy, Minho said. Sunho nodded. She's learning to be. They watched the girls play. Yuna tripped and fell. Vela helped her up. They both laughed and kept running. Father, Minho said carefully. I wanted to say something. About before. About all the years I stayed away. Sunho was quiet. He waited. I was angry at you. After Mother died. After Jia died. I thought. Minho's voice caught. I thought you gave up. I thought you stopped fighting. I thought you just accepted losing them and moved on. I never moved on, Sunho said softly. Not one day. I know that now. Minho turned to look at his father. When I saw you with her, with Vela, the way you fought for her, the way you stood against those soldiers, I understood. He paused. You did not give up. You just learned to carry the grief and keep living anyway. Sunho reached over and put his hand on his son's shoulder. Your mother would be happy that you are here, that we are talking. Minho nodded. His eyes were wet. I know. They sat together until the sun went down. Other things changed too. Rin came back to Earth 6 months after she left. But she did not come with soldiers or ships. She came alone, wearing simple clothes, carrying nothing but a small bag. She requested asylum. She wanted to live among humans. She wanted to understand them. The request shocked everyone. A HFY commander asking to leave her people, her power, her entire life? It made no sense, but Vela understood. Rin had seen something on that cold day in the village. Something she had never seen in all her years of conquest. She had seen people choose love over safety, kindness over self-interest, connection over survival. And it had broken something inside her. The wall she had built around her heart. The wall her culture had taught her to build. Now she wanted to learn what was on the other side. Vela visited her once, after she settled in a small apartment in the city. They did not have much to say to each other. They were not friends. Maybe they never would be. But Vela told her something before she left. I hated you, Vela said. When I saw you that day, I hated you more than I had ever hated anyone. Rin nodded. She did not apologize. Apologies could not fix the past. But then you let me go, Vela continued. And I did not understand. I still do not understand completely. But I think you are trying to be different. And that is something. Rin looked at her for a long moment. The old human. Your father. What he said about love. About family. I have been thinking about it. And? I still do not understand it. Rin's voice was quiet. But I want to. More than I have wanted anything in a very long time. Vila almost smiled. Almost thought it was a start. The story spread somehow. Rumors traveled. A tale about a dying alien and a kind old man grew into something bigger. Other refugees heard about a village in the mountains where strangers were welcomed. A place where being different did not matter. A place where you could start again. They came slowly. 1 or 2 at first. Then more. Different species, different stories, all of them running from something. Sunho's village became known as a place of refuge. Not officially. There were no signs or announcements. Just quiet understanding that the villagers helped. Most of them, anyway. They had learned something on that cold day when they stood in the snow. They had learned that protecting others made them feel more human, not less. On a warm spring evening, 1 year after everything changed, Vela went to the shrine for Sunho's wife. She went there often now. She liked to bring flowers, different ones each time, and sit there quietly. Sunho found her there. He sat beside her, his old bones creaking. I want to say something, Vila said, but I do not know the right words. Try, Sunho said gently. Vila looked at the picture of Yoonji. She had never met this woman, but she felt like she knew her. She saw her kindness in Sunho's eyes. She saw her warmth in the way he treated everyone. She saw her love in everything he did. Before I came here, Vala said slowly, I thought I was nothing. That is what they told me. Every day. For my whole life. You are nothing. You are worthless. You are only what we allow you to be. She paused. Her voice was shaking. But you looked at me and saw something different. You saw a person. Not a slave. Not a problem. A person who was hungry and scared and needed help. Tears were falling now. You taught me that I am not nothing. That I matter. That I deserve to be loved. Sunho took her hand. His eyes were wet too. You always mattered, he said. You just needed someone to help you see it. Val leaned against him. She was not afraid anymore. Not of the past. Not of the future. Not of anything. Thank you, she whispered. For everything. Sunho held her close. In the distance, they could hear Yuna calling for them. Dinner was ready. The spring evening was warm. The garden was blooming. And somewhere in the galaxy, beings with great power and terrible weapons looked at their star charts and wondered how one small planet kept producing such strange, stubborn, impossibly kind creatures. They did not understand. Humans. They probably never would. But that was okay, because the old fisherman and the silver girl and the village in the mountains knew a secret that all the power in the universe could not teach. The secret was simple. Everyone matters. Everyone deserves kindness. Everyone can be family. And sometimes saving one starving stranger can change everything. The end.